Hello and welcome back to Feminine Initiate. I'm your host, Jess West. I hope you are doing so well. Earlier this week, Dev and I revisited our brand values pyramid. And this is something that we do periodically, but recently it's been very timely because we are making some tweaks in our offerings, which I'm so excited to be able to speak further about in the next coming weeks. But so we thought it was such a perfect time to revisit our values, strategies, and practices, and also create a free guide to inspire our clients and others who are interested in looking over their own values, whether it be in their personal life or in their business. It is so important. And I feel like values have been undervalued in our personal life and in business. I mean, for myself, I never really took values that seriously until I really started studying personal development, studying manifestation, and getting different certifications. Then I really understood just how important our values are. I talk about the power of our beliefs so much on this podcast and so much when it comes to manifesting. But our values actually run even deeper than our beliefs. And so knowing our values is so important in not only determining the things that we manifest, the goals that we achieve, but just to experience fulfillment in life in general, in every single experience, in every single circumstance, conversation, activity, whatever it is. The extent to which we experience fulfillment is to the extent that our values are met or unmet. And so I feel like knowing our values really helps us in three main areas. It helps us make better decisions. Essentially, our values are what drive our decisions, whether we're aware of it or not. The decisions that we make reflect our values because our values are what matter most to us. And so it facilitates decisions. Once we become consciously aware of our values and we bring them to the forefront, when a decision comes up, we're so much better able to reason, to see if this decision is congruent with our values or if it's not. And if it's not, then we could respectfully decline that opportunity or make a different decision. Knowing our values helps us, in the same regard, set better boundaries. Because again, if there's a certain circumstance, a certain activity, or a certain person or group of people that don't match our values, then we're better able to set a boundary there. Say no, do something else, or limit the time that we spend working on that initiative, that activity, or with spending time with those people, because we know that we're not actually going to experience that much fulfillment through it because there's just a values mismatch. There's no drama, and it also eliminates our own self-guessing, our own critical thinking of ourselves. And so another benefit is that it gives us a greater sense of self-awareness. I mean, how many times have you gotten into a conversation with someone, or you went to an event where you were speaking with a lot of people and you left that person or that event and you just felt so drained and you didn't know why? And so you started replaying in your own head, well, what did I do? What did I say here? What could I have done better? Or what's wrong with me? Why doesn't this feel good anymore? Well, when we know our values, we can clearly see that this value wasn't met. And so it's not me. It's not me. It's not that other person. It's just, there's just a mismatch. And that's totally okay. When I can clearly see what I value and that this wasn't being met here, then there's no drama. I don't need to second guess myself. I don't need to get angry with myself. I don't need to blame myself for not fitting in with these people. And I don't need to blame others either. I can clearly see it's just a values mismatch. And so these are just a couple ways that knowing our values could really help us through some of our challenges in life. But knowing our values also inspires us to create, inspires us to set goals and achieve them, inspire us to create businesses that truly reflect who we are, inspires us to make those decisions that feel good within us so that we are acting in alignment. And when we are in alignment, we know we get to experience the most fulfilling experience that we can. And that is the entire point of this life, is it not? Isn't that what we are all after? Experiencing that fulfillment and knowing what your values are just as important as knowing your beliefs. And so, as I mentioned, I have created a free guide to help you uncover your own personal core values and also translate that into a brand or an online business by creating a brand's value pyramid. I created this guide specifically to help those wanting to start an online business. However, this values pyramid is helpful in your own personal life too. Because when you outline the strategies and the practices, it helps you take action that is in most alignment with your values. First, you look at what are your top core values? What matters most to you? I'm going to give you a few questions right now that you could reflect on, or even take a journal and a pen quickly and jot down the answers. Or if you're feeling really inspired to uncover your values, then download my free guide. You can follow the link in the show notes so that you can answer these questions within the workbook and get this whole framework to building out your values pyramid. So to start uncovering your values, if they aren't totally clear to you right now, I encourage you to look at two different situations in your life. The first situation, look at a time when you were so happy. You felt so fulfilled. You were so proud of yourself. And in this moment, what is it that you were doing? And what is it that made you feel so happy? Essentially, what values were met in this moment? And in a similar way, look back to a moment where you felt totally frustrated or annoyed. What were you doing in that moment? And what was it specifically that were leading to the feeling of being frustrated or annoyed? What was unmet there? What value was being unfulfilled? These are just questions to start getting the juices flowing. Within the workbook, I also provided a list of a number of potential values that you may have. And as you're reading through this list, pay attention to the feeling within. Because as you read the words, there are some words that are going to feel so congruent within you, that are going to light a spark within you. And then you know that this is something that you value. And when you do uncover your values, I encourage you not to stop there. Sometimes we can think that we have a value, but when we really explore what that means to us, we recognize that our value is so much deeper. Like, for example, for the longest time, I thought I had a value of communication, and that was always on my top list, communication. But when I started to explore it even deeper, I recognized that I don't just value communication. Though it's a value of mine, it's not one of my core values. That I actually value connection, because I don't just want to communicate with someone. I want to truly connect with someone, connect on a deeper level. I want to find similarities within us. I want to get on to the same page. I want to find something that we can literally connect on, whether it be an interest, an experience, a value. I want to form that true connection as opposed to only communicating. And so now one of my top core values is connection. So I encourage you to really get clear and really look at what is it that you value from those values. What is it that makes you feel so fulfilled about having that value satisfied? And then when we get into our strategies, it's all about how are we actually going to embody this value? What strategies are you going to use to make sure that your value is fulfilled? So for example, I'm going to take one of the values that we have in our business that Dev and I just worked on. So one of our top values for business is empowerment. And some of the strategies that we use to truly embody empowerment is mindfulness, and we create support systems for our clients. Those are strategies to which we are going to empower ourselves and everybody that comes into our business. Again, we created this for business, but you can also create it for your own personal life. How are you truly going to embody that value? What are the actual strategies? For communication, as I said, when my value was communication, one of the strategies was honesty, to be honest, and also integrity, to act in integrity. So you want to look at how am I actually going to do this? And then the last step of the pyramid, we're taking this and getting even more specific. What actions are we truly going to take to live out those strategies? So to go back to the example that Dev and I have, where our top value is empowerment, our strategies are mindfulness and support systems, our practices are to always have a winning attitude, to uplift others, and to take personal responsibility. So those are the actual action steps that we're going to take to embody the value of empowerment. I feel like outlining these strategies and practices, whether you're in business or not, is such a valuable tool. Because again, our values are held in our unconscious mind, just like our beliefs are. And if we're not aware of what our values are, we ourselves can be acting out of alignment with our own values. And that's why we feel unfulfilled. Because if we're not even bringing that to the surface, we don't even know. For example, to go back when I thought that I had a value of communication for the longest time, when in truth it was connection, but there I was communicating with people, but not actually having that connection. And so I would always wonder why is this conversation just leaving me feeling unfulfilled? Or we hear so often, why is it that people hate small talk? Just, how's the weather? How's this? How's that? Why doesn't that feel fulfilling to us? What value isn't being met there? And for me, I was one of those people small talk? Yeah, okay. There's not much value in there for me because we're not actually establishing a connection. So now that I know that connection is actually what I value, I make sure that whenever I communicate with someone that we're finding a common ground, that I'm finding something that we can connect with. And that always brings smiles to all parties involved. And it makes such a more nourishing communication, a more nourishing conversation with each other when I actually know that connection is something that I value, and I make sure that I'm looking for something that we can connect on, that I'm establishing that connection in our conversation. If we're not aware of it, we can actually end up missing the point to fulfill our values within our own selves, and then we just feel unfulfilled in life. And so again, this is another reason to know what our values are, to have them be very apparent and obvious to us, and take it upon ourselves. It is our responsibility to ensure that our values are fulfilled. And if we are to take that responsibility, then we want to make sure that we actually know ourselves. What is it that we actually value? And then how can we take action to actually live out those values so that we experience that fulfillment within our life, within our business, and with everything that we do? We are taking responsibility for our own fulfillment and happiness in our life, when really it is our responsibility. It's no one else's responsibility to ensure that we're fulfilled. And so in order to be as responsible of an individual that we can be, we want to know ourselves. We want to gain that awareness to know what is it that we truly value. And so once again, if you are interested in really going further doing a deeper dive into this, and I've also provided a template for the values pyramid, then go ahead and download the free guide by following the link that I've included in the show notes of this episode. Thank you so much for being here with me today. I hope that this resonated with you and that you see the value of knowing our core values and really acting those out within our life. Because when we feel most fulfilled, I say this all the time on the podcast, when we feel fulfilled, that energy ripples. That energy creates a ripple effect in those around us. So when we come from that state of fulfillment, we are benefiting our family, we're benefiting our community, we're benefiting the world at large through our energy. If you know of someone else who can benefit from this episode, then please share it with them. Have an amazing week, and until next time, be empowered. Thanks for joining me. If you enjoyed this conversation, don't forget to hit subscribe so that you never miss an episode, and I'll see you next time.